Hi, I'm Ruby, also known as Ruby's Trinkets, and this is an entire explanation of how I launched an online art shop. I'm going to explain what I did step by step while using this mind map. I'll have the link to view it on Canva below. This is going to be very detailed, so if you're in the beginning stages of starting a shop, or if it's something you want to do, I think you'll find something that helps you here. So again, I'm Ruby, I'm 23 years old, I graduated from art school in 2024, and I just recently launched my art shop now in 2025. I've always had the dream of selling my art for a living. I think it's something a lot of artists want to do, and I also decided after graduating that I wanted to be self-employed, so this just kind of made sense for me. I sell polymer clay keychains, necklaces, and acrylic paintings. So my job consists of running an online art shop, creating content, and marketing my art shop through that content. I'd say I'm pretty early in my art business. Even though a year sounds like a long time, a lot of that was spent in the research and preparation phase. So things like my YouTube channel and my art shop are still relatively new to me. I wanted to make this video pretty early on so it could be used as a reference for those who are just starting. I'm sure you watch other artists on YouTube who are way more successful or well-known than me, but recreating their steps can feel pretty impossible when they're already so far in their journey. They've already achieved so much, but I'm still just starting out, so I thought it'd be good to struggle with you, to learn with you, and not wait too long to make a video like this. I know when I was getting started, I got a lot of inspiration from artists that were not too far along yet. They were still learning and at the beginning stages, and that helped me a lot with my realistic expectations. I also wanted to say I pretty much started this YouTube channel by talking about the issues with this kind of content, the how to make money from art content. So I just want to make sure that I'm not contributing to some of the issues that I've talked about before. I know these videos can feel a bit misleading or oversimplified, so I want to make sure that I'm super thorough and that I'm not contributing to this romanticized view. I don't want to make this seem easy because we all know it isn't, so here's some disclaimers. Number 1, monetizing your passion is not for everyone. Despite what you see on social media, you do not need to make your hobby your job in order to be happy and fulfilled. Number 2, full-time artists aren't doing art at full-time hours. It just means that they're successful enough as a small business and as a self-employed artist to make full-time income, to make a full-time wage, but they aren't spending like 9 to 5 only doing art and posting a reel now and then, so don't go into this thinking that that's what it's like. And finally, business, marketing, and content creation really dominate this career path because an online shop is e-commerce. Even if it's your art, even if it's your passion, it's still e-commerce and business, so the work that you do really reflects that. There are days where I don't really even feel like an artist. I feel like I'm just running a business, but there are also days where I do a lot of art and I do a lot of creative things, so it's really a balance, it's really a lot of both. So I just wanted to make it clear from the beginning that I'm not having like a cozy time in my studio every day. I'm often working and editing. So now that that's out of the way, and I'm assuming you're going into this with realistic expectations, let's get into the mind map. So this is actually a recreation of a mind map I made about a year ago now. It was the first mind map I ever made about art business. It's in like marker and Sharpie. It says my life plan, present 2023 to 2024, and it was just kind of a brain dump of the things that I was learning about art business and the things I was learning in art school. So this mind map is really just a recreation of that. I cleaned it up, I added things, and yeah. So mind maps help you with the entirety of art business. It helps you zoom out and kind of look at all the different aspects and moving cogs so that you don't get bogged down and too focused on one aspect when there's so much more to do, if that makes sense. It helps you understand the different parts that you need to learn because not everybody is prepared in all of these aspects right off the bat. You probably aren't. So here at the center of it all is my art business. It of course connects to everything, and everything comes back to contribute to it. Up here are 3 words that describe my platform. This is something I suggest you do to keep your content grounded and recognizable. For me, I wrote conscious consumerism, educational content, and community. I try to revolve all my content around these things to kind of stay on topic. You can always branch out and shift gears in the future, but especially at the beginning, I recommend that you focus on a few topics. Down here, I wrote my goals because it's good to have a sense of direction when you're self-employed. There's no one really telling you what to do next or when you've achieved what you were aiming to achieve. You have to figure that out yourself. Please set kind and realistic goals for yourself. Don't put be a millionaire, don't put be famous. Don't even make a full-time income as like your first goal, because that is not a first goal. That is something that you achieve really further down the line. Start small, don't set your expectations ridiculously high. Because of capitalism, we tend to expect a lot from ourselves, and we can even gloss over our achievements because we think that we could be doing better or someone else is doing better than us, so who cares about the little things? But the little things are really important. Small steps lead to big achievements. So really keep your scope small at the beginning. Do set goals, but don't set them too far ahead. It should be just like a few steps ahead of where you are right now. My first goals were research art business, which is what I was doing with that little handwritten mind map, and figure out what art I wanted to sell. So I was experimenting with different mediums and with what I would want to sell on my art shop, so we'll talk about that more later. And maybe that's what you're doing right now with this video. Maybe you're looking for resources and learning more about art business. And that's a really good start. You don't need to rush at the beginning. You don't need to invest money. Like, I don't want you spending a bunch on packing supplies and on cameras and stuff for YouTube. We'll talk more about that later, but at the beginning, you really just need to be diversifying your resources and looking around for like free information. My goals after that were to get monetized on YouTube, to launch my art shop, and to get sponsors on YouTube. So to really start the career and get some income. And I've achieved all that. So that is where I am in my journey currently. So now I have to set new goals just a few steps ahead. So I wrote down building a community and making authentic content, just as general goals that will probably always be goals for me. But I also wrote grow my audience, market an art shop, and save for a down payment, because those are the next steps I want to take in my art business and also just my life in general. I was originally going to put a number here, like make $1,200 a month or something, but honestly I'm nowhere near making that amount anyways, and I also find that my income is pretty scattered. It depends on the video, it depends on how much marketing I've done that week, that month, so I didn't want to put a number to kind of hold myself to, because it wasn't really realistic for me to always be achieving that. Another example is that I'm not aiming to reach a certain amount of followers, I'm aiming to grow my audience. I want dedicated and returning viewers, not just a number of followers. So it doesn't always have to be a number that you're aiming for. As for the individual components of art business, there's content creation, which is recording, editing, and posting YouTube videos, Instagram Reels, TikToks, whatever social media you use. It's using social media to provide content. This can also become a stream of income later. There's also marketing, which is using the content creation to market things like your art shop or your Patreon or whatever you have. Marketing is the strategy and structure that you use in your content to achieve your business goals. Like I just said, bringing people to your shop, Patreon, getting a community, followers. Next up is business, which is licensing, registration, following your local laws, and bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is super important when you're self-employed because there's no one keeping track of your income or your expenses. There's no one deducting the tax from that income, so it's something that you have to do yourself. Even if you have an accountant, you still have to keep track of everything that's coming in and coming out. And finally, there's the art shop itself. This section has a lot to do with choosing what kind of service providers you want to use. So like website builders, payment processors, for when someone buys something you need to process the payment, and other things like a PO box. This is also where you plan out the art that you want to sell. What medium, is it physical or digital? How are you going to ship it? How much do the supplies cost? And finally, at the top of the mind map, I added a place to track your streams of income and expenses. This is to see where you're spending money, where you're earning money, so that you can kind of just keep track of all of that. This will also be used to plan out what expenses you're going to have, where you want to invest money if you do want to buy certain supplies for things like YouTube or certain kind of art that you're making. So having this mind map is good. It helps you zoom out and look at all the different aspects of your art business. And I originally wanted to make this Canva a template so you could just go in and change the information with your own, but I don't have Canva Pro, so I can't make templates, but I will have the link to view it if you want. You can make your own in Canva for free. Mine was made for free. I just can't link the templates. So you could also do it on paper like I did. You could just write it down. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It just needs to be detailed and researched. And now that you have your mind map, there obviously still isn't a particular order to go in. There's no explanation of which one to do first or last, so that's why now I'm going to go step by step through what I did to launch my online art shop and start my art business. A lot of starting an art business has to do with learning new skills and even just figuring out what those skills are and then learning how to do them. So let's get into the step-by-step guide. You might notice that although we're touching everything in this mind map, we're going to focus a little more on content creation and marketing, and that's just because marketing and content creation in an online art shop is kind of just as important as the art shop itself. Online art shops are e-commerce at its core, like I said before, so every sale that you make is a sale that you created, basically. You drove traffic to your shop. You brought a viewer in from your content to your shop. Because it's all online, you are the one driving the traffic. Compared to art markets or fairs where, you know, people are just kind of walking by and buying from you, this is all online. You have to bring the people in online. So naturally, there is a focus on content creation and marketing. And I do get a lot of comments from artists saying that I don't want to be told that I need to be a content creator. I don't want to be told I need to market, and it's annoying. I just want to be an artist, and I completely understand that. I know that it's frustrating, and you don't have to do this, but if you do want an online art shop, content creation and marketing just kind of comes in with it. It's just part of the job description. So I just wanted to give that disclaimer that, yeah, there is a lot of content creation in this job, and it is a lot of what I do. And if that's not for you, that's okay. If it is for you, and you do want an online shop, then let's get into the step-by-step guide. So step 1 is to decide what art to sell. I know I haven't talked a lot about art so far in this video, and it might seem like I don't think it's that important, but it's the opposite. It's actually super important because it's the foundation of your art business, of a lot of your content, and it's just what everything revolves around, you know, it's art business. The reason why I will be talking about art a lot in this video is because everyone's doing their own thing. Everyone has their own medium they use, skills that they have. I can't talk a lot about the art because it's unique to you. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what medium you're using. But step 1 is to decide that, to decide what art you want to sell, what kind of art. Is it physical? Is it digital? Is it a custom commission? Is it something that you just make up on your own? This is a very important step because it's the foundation of your art shop. It's what's going to be in your art shop. So this decision relies a lot on your personal preference and your own skills. What are you experienced in? What are you interested in? But I will say this. Yes, you should make this decision based off of your skills, interests, and what you want to do, but you should also think of a few logistics here. Think about if there's an audience for this. Are there people willing to pay for this? Who is buying this? When are they buying it? I'm not saying you need to appeal to the masses, because it is generally a good idea to niche down and to find a specific group of people that like the specific art that you make, but you shouldn't niche down so hard that it's like obscure, if that makes sense. Because this is business, there is economics involved, you need to supply a demand. You also want an audience and a community, so you need to think about who are the people that want to buy the art that you make. These details will be important for content creation and marketing. You also need to think about the logistics of shipping. This was something I was super aware of when I first started my art business, because I was doing a lot of different kind of art in art school. I was doing painting, ceramics, I was doing all kinds of things. So when I thought about shipping, like a bigger painting or a heavy like ceramic pottery mug, it made me pretty intimidated because shipping is expensive, it's kind of complicated, and I didn't want to deal with all that. So that was something I factored in when choosing what art I wanted to sell. Dealing with customs, international shipping, and the cost was just something I didn't want to deal with as a beginner, so I decided to go with polymer clay because it's light, it's small. I decided to go with, you know, necklaces and keychains instead of mugs because they're easier to ship, and I wasn't as worried about things like that. I'm not saying you shouldn't do certain mediums, like I'm not saying if you like ceramics, don't do ceramics because it's heavy, but if you do want to do that, take the time to research shipping, to research how heavy breakable items work. There's always things to think about in this decision. Another factor is the supplies. Are you working with supplies that you can get your hands on? Like ceramics, I'd need a studio, I need glazes, and a kiln. But polymer clay is something I can do at home. I can bake it at home, I can paint it at home. There's also the question of how far along your skills are. No, you don't need to be a master of art in order to sell it, but you need to have a certain level of quality, durability, and knowledge in your medium in order to make a product that someone would buy. I spent a lot of time developing my polymer clay, learning about the most durable clay types, the best glazing method to make it last the longest, and the best way to create the keychain so that it doesn't come apart. For my acrylic paintings, I figured out what size I wanted to make. I bought the right backing for it so that it doesn't bend. I have like a protective plastic sleeve. You just need to think of all of this. This is step number 1 because with no art, there is no art shop, there's no art content. So figure this out before moving on. Step number 2 is to research business, and I think this is a step that gets skipped a lot because who wants to research business when you're an artist? You know what I mean? Who wants to do accounting and learn about licensing and stuff? I understand that you just want to get to the art part. You don't want to do the managing and accounting, but it's really important and it's something you need to do throughout your career to do it legally, you know? It's really important and it should not be skipped. It's step number 2 for me. I mean, I guess you could interchangeably do step number 1 and number 2, but this was the order I preferred. But yeah, learning the art and the business is the beginning of your art business. The first thing I did was get familiar with my local laws because things will vary depending on where you live, your city, your country. I can't tell you exactly how things work where you are. Find out the rules about small business. Do you need to register? Do you need to choose a name for that registration? Do you need to pay a fee? If you're doing it from home, do you need a home-based license? Again, these completely depend on where you live. So look up your city's government page, find out all the information you can online, and call them if you have questions. I called like 4 different offices when I was figuring this out because I just wanted to make sure that I was doing everything right. Another thing is GST. What are your tax laws? I don't personally need to charge taxes, GST, on my products until I reach a certain amount of income a year, but it could be different for you. Some self-employed people need to pay their taxes quarterly instead of once a year, so that's another thing you need to keep track of. Bookkeeping is also super important. Like I said before, it's keeping track of your income and your business expenses. We'll talk a lot more about that later, but that's a big part of business too. Now, when it comes to actually filling out your taxes, I personally recommend getting help, hiring an accountant. I've always used an accountant even before I did self-employment and small business. It's just how I've always done it. I don't know anything about filling out my own taxes. I don't want to mess it up. I know that there's some services that help you do it online for free. If you want to do that, then you'd have to do your own research for that, but it is generally recommended to find a professional. Whether you go with a professional or not, you'll need to keep track of all of your bank statements, your business purchases, and your income. This is all my information in this giant binder. It's full of bank statements, it's full of receipts. It's it's a lot of information, which is why I suggest getting help, because it is a lot of work and you may not know how to do it because it is someone's whole job to do this. That's how complicated it can get. This step is basically the logistics of starting a business. What is it like in your city? What are the local laws for you? What do you need to do before you even start selling? Now on to step 3. Step 3 is actually building your art shop. When it comes to hosting a shop online, you have a lot of options. I know a lot of people suggest Etsy for beginners, but because of its rising fees and the increased dropshippers on the website, I don't personally recommend it. It's not my favorite option. And the way that I approach art business relies a lot on making a name and a brand for yourself to be recognizable and to stand out. So when it came to making a shop for myself, I wanted it to be on my own website. I wanted it to be my own domain. I wanted it to be something that stood out a lot more than just another shop on Etsy. I personally use Hostinger, who's the sponsor of this video. Hostinger is a web hosting platform where you can create and customize your website. I use their business plan for my website, portfolio, and art shop. Their e-commerce features let you host your shop with 0% transaction fees, making it a great place to sell art. With 150 free templates and drag and drop features, it's super easy for anyone to create and customize their website. No coding knowledge needed. My favorite thing about them is their price. I find Hostinger a lot more affordable than other options I've tried. And on top of that, you can get a discount on all yearly plans with the code RUBY. Just head over to hostinger.com/Ruby, choose the business plan to get a website and shop, and apply the code RUBY to get an additional 10% off. Plus, choosing a 48-month plan will get you 3 months for free. Thank you so much to Hostinger for sponsoring this video. So even with website builders making this process easier, you'll still have to make the website and take the time to learn the layout, how it works. You'll also have to take the time to design it. What I did was look at other artists that I admire. I looked at their websites and their shops, not to copy them or anything, but to see what designs stood out to me as a viewer. This also helped me realize that the most recognizable art creators, the ones that I could name by heart, had their own unique website and shop. This helped me decide early that I wanted to go with that option rather than an Etsy or a Ko-fi. While you build your shop, you'll also have to pick a payment processor. I personally use Stripe. It's well known, it works well, it connects straight to Hostinger. I also know that it connects to Ko-fi. Another popular option is PayPal, but I'm actually banned from PayPal for life. I don't know why. I connected it to my Ko-fi and I got a donation and it banned me for being a bot with like no option to appeal. So I can't personally recommend PayPal because of my bad experience, but I know a lot of other people use it. So just use something that's safe and well known. It's reputable, you know. They all take a fee, so also compare the fee. You'll also have to set up shipping during this step. We kind of talked a bit about that in step 1, but this is when you should think about how much you want to charge for shipping, how much it'll cost, the supplies you need based on the art you make, and figuring out how the shipping process works on whatever website builder you chose. So this step of creating your shop can be done at the same time as the rest of your research phase. It doesn't need to be completed before you move on, but I do highly suggest that it's done before you do your content creation, because you want to have somewhere for people to go if a video performs well. I actually made the mistake of not having my shop ready to ship orders when I made my first few YouTube videos, and they performed very well, and I could see like hundreds of people going to my shop, clicking my link, and nothing was ready to ship, and it's sad to think about how many orders I missed out on. Marketing is also very fleeting. A lot of those people won't come back. Social media can be unpredictable. You always want to be ready to take those orders. So I do have another video where I explore other options for websites and shops. Obviously I couldn't cover them all, there's so many, but that's there if you want to check that out. But I do really recommend the customizable option because you want to stand out and be memorable. So step number 4 is to fill your skill gaps. This step relies a lot on your mind map, which will help you learn what you need to learn. For every aspect that I made, the content creation, business, art shop, there's skills to be learned in all those different aspects. So the skills I'm about to list are important to learn, but you can also get away with learning some of them on the job. Some of them you need to just do them and try them out to learn. You don't need to be an expert in every single category to be ready to start your art business. I actually suggest you don't wait until you're perfect and great at everything, because you probably never will be, honestly. People always have weaknesses. They always have gaps in their knowledge. Just do the best that you can to fill the most that you can, you know? You don't need to have everything perfect in order to start your art business. Just good enough, I guess. You also might Don't click. Don't click. You also might already have some knowledge in these skills. If you worked in marketing or accounting in the past, if you took a film class in college, maybe you already know some of this stuff. So acknowledge what you do know and learn what you don't. So here are the skills that you should be aware of and actively learning and improving on throughout your art business journey. Number 1 is marketing. Like I said before, marketing is the strategy and structure behind your content creation. It's understanding the psychology and behavior of your audience, what gets them to connect with you, what gets them to follow you and buy your art. I think marketing gets a bit of a bad rep because it seems a little manipulative, like you're influencing people to do something, and yeah, that is kind of the goal, and it does sound kind of bad, but you're trying to convince them that your art is worth buying, it's worth having, you know, you're not a greedy CEO, you're a self-employed artist, so it's just a tool that you need to utilize. It's not something that needs to be evil, especially if you go about it in an ethical way. It's promoting yourself, it's communicating who you are and what your art is. A big tip I can give you with marketing is that you want to market you, the artist, as much as your art, because sometimes people can only connect with your page if they feel like they know you. You want to stand out and be memorable, which yes, can be achieved through your art alone, but sometimes human connection is easier to achieve. People connect to you just as much as the art. So market who you are, the why behind the art, your wins and your losses, your goals and your dreams. It can be scary to put yourself out there, but I find that people connect the most with the art and the artist. They get more invested. There's lots of ways to go about marketing, there's lots of different strategies. You can just Google marketing strategies to learn about the different kinds, but the one that I personally use is the AIDA model. I learned about it in a seminar at art school about art business, and I find that it's the most useful one in terms of content creation and art. So AIDA stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. Attention is engagement. It's actually getting the viewer to stop scrolling, stop looking around on YouTube, and actually stop on your video and click on it. This is achieved the most through thumbnails and titles. A lot of people always say be attention grabby. This is what that means. Interest is about creating high quality and consistent content. You want people to stick around after the initial attention, the initial engagement. So having valuable quality content is very important. Desire is about creating a want for your product, which is either your art shop, your Patreon, or it can be following your Instagram or your YouTube page. There can be a desire to have the art that you make, or to join your community, or to see more videos from you. And action is actually following through with that desire. So it's hitting the follow button, it's going to your website through the link in your bio and clicking on your shop and buying something. I still feel like I'm in the process of learning marketing. It's a lot of trial and error, and it's definitely like my weakest point because I have no experience in it. I've never had to think about marketing before, but it is important to have a plan and a vision when you make content, and that is what marketing is. Because just throwing things to a wall and seeing what sticks isn't always a good strategy. It can really burn you out because it doesn't usually work. You need to kind of understand why things perform well, why people connect with content creation, what gets them to stick around. I have a whole video about marketing community, about the AIDA model in this video, which I'll link here and also at the end and in my description. It'll be easy to find. If you want to see more about the AIDA model and marketing, go check that out. But for now, let's move on to the next skill, which is content creation. So content creation is basically the 4 steps of ideation, planning, recording, and editing. So ideation is actually coming up with the idea of what your YouTube video is going to be about or your reel is going to be about, and it seems easy. A lot of people barely even think about this step, but it is kind of important, and it does actually take time out of your day and mental energy. It feels like everything's already been done. Like, it's very hard to have unique ideas on the internet. Not impossible, like I'm sure you can think of unique things, but a lot of things have already been done and you need to think of how to build upon them or make it different so that you're just not repeating the same thing that's been done a million times. And it's challenging. This takes a lot of creative energy. It takes a lot of mental energy. So I had to learn to carve out time to actually have the ideation phase, to think about things and to keep a running list, which is a big tip I have, is to have a list either on your phone or on your computer or just write it down of ongoing ideas, because they can come to you at any time. You know, they just pop into your brain, you get inspired at random times. Just have a running list of things you might want to talk about or make videos about. The next step to content creation is planning. Planning kind of varies depending on the format that you do. Not everybody does information-heavy video essays like I do. Some people just do vlogs or more unscripted videos, and that will take less planning, but still some. You need to plan what shots you're going to take, where you're recording, the lighting, also what you're going to say. There's script writing, there's also just having, talking points. It's also important to structure your video a certain way so that it keeps people's attention. You don't want to have like lulls in your engagement, if that makes sense. You want to keep re-engaging the viewer, so you want to make sure that your video doesn't slow down at certain points. There's a lot of planning that goes into YouTube videos. Even if you think you're just going to make a chill vlog video, you still need to understand what goes into planning a YouTube video. Structure is important, engagement is important. For this part, I researched the basics of writing a script for YouTube, writing YouTube videos. It's kind of like writing an essay most of the time. It's a little bit different, but it involves like a hook, an intro, a middle part, an end. Everything should wrap up nicely. You should always meet the expectations of your viewers, fulfill the promises that you make. Recording is a whole other thing. Again, I researched the basics of videography because that's something I've never had experience in. I actually looked up the specific videography tips for the camera that I use, the kind of settings that work best for YouTube videos, which camera was best in general before I bought one. I also learned about lighting and balancing color, just some basics of videography. It's important to know that content creation is very visual based. People want to see something that is connected to what they're hearing and what they're absorbing in the content. Or sometimes they're just looking for visual stimulus because, like I said before, engagement is very important in content creation in these days. Recording can also mean recording your voice. You need to learn how to get good quality audio. I'm using a different microphone for my camera right now for the best audio that I can. You could also be recording your art process or you yourself. You need to learn the difference between recording like a still image and you if you're moving or you if you're sitting. There's just a lot that goes into this part, so do the research that you can. If you are just using your phone because you don't have a camera for YouTube, you can also look up how people make reels, how they use lighting and like phone stands to capture their reels and their videos. Just try to make the visual component as high quality as you can because people like to see something when they're hearing something. That's kind of what sets content apart from just video or just audio, like just a podcast. You have visual stimulus and you want that to be important to what you're doing. And finally, editing, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's editing the thing you just filmed. Editing will be involved whether you're doing YouTube or if you're doing short-form content. I personally use CapCut on my computer for my YouTube videos. It's free and I think it works good enough for what I do, but other people might prefer other software, so do some research. I also think editing is a great place to show your personality because the way that you edit will be recognizable. Editing is a creative outlet. You have a certain voice while you're editing. You can show off your personality through your editing style, your humor, the references to, culture that you make. It's a great way to connect with your audience and be recognizable. I think this is kind of a subconscious thought in viewers, but the more that a video is edited, the more they know that you put effort into it and that you are trying to make something enjoyable, compared to if you just record something and you don't add anything else to it. So don't under-edit. It's almost better to over-edit. You want to add as much humor, as much visual stimulation that's interesting and also, informative to what your video is about. Or it doesn't even have to do with the video if you don't want it to. I do some videos where I just show my art process while I talk, and I think that's a fun way to both show my art and to talk about something that's important to me. Either way, I spend so much time editing and making sure that it's something I'm proud of and something that demonstrates me as an artist. It's unique to me. So practice. Editing is something you can't learn unless you just do it. You have to just practice and practice on the software that you're using, whether it's on your phone or on your computer. Editing takes a lot of work and a lot of time, but it gets kind of fun when you get used to it. This next skill is a little less fun. It's bookkeeping. So we brought this up during the business portion. It's coming back now. Bookkeeping is a skill you need to learn and you need to do for the entirety of your art business. You need to keep records. Lots and lots of records about your income and expenses of your business. Generating your own income kind of automatically makes you a self-employed person and a small business owner. So you don't have a boss. You don't have a boss who is giving you your paycheck, who is deducting taxes from your income, and who is keeping track of all of the business spending. That's all your job. You are the boss. This also gets complicated because you will likely have multiple streams of income. You'll have your YouTube earnings from your shop, if you do commissions, and if you have something like Patreon. Income can be coming from so many different sources that it's hard to keep track of, which is where bookkeeping comes in. And I actually planned my streams of income before I started making money, kind of. In my original mind map, I wrote down YouTube, art shop, Patreon. That was always going to be my focus because you can kind of choose where you put your effort and therefore where your money comes from. This can always change, this can always shift, but it's not a bad idea to think about where you want those streams of income coming from. I always knew that I wanted to do YouTube because it's a great way to build an audience. It's very visual, which is perfect for art, and it can become a stream of income through AdSense and sponsors. Anyways, to do bookkeeping, I use a spreadsheet, and that's probably the method most people use. Spreadsheets can be done in Excel, in Google Sheets, or some other softwares. If you know how to use Excel, if you have those skills, they will be very, very useful here. I had zero skills, zero knowledge. I don't know how to use these things, but I did look up some free business templates. I just went on YouTube and I found some people who do accounting for small businesses and they have free templates. So I will link the one that I personally use. It's from a YouTuber and it's on Google Sheets. The reason why I like this template more than the other ones I've seen is because it actually calculates all of your income and your business expenses for each month. So it shows me my profit to loss ratio, how much I actually made that month when you deduct how much I spent. And of course, you need to keep track of both your income and your business expenses for taxes. So having both of them in the same place was really useful for me. You don't want to be running around at tax time, which is why bookkeeping is so important to keep up with. It's not just something you do at the end of the year. You should be doing it like almost every day. You also need to keep your receipts in case you get audited, which is when they ask you to prove that you made this purchase. So keep all your receipts if it's a business expense, and then track it in your bookkeeping. So I have my bookkeeping online, and then I have all my receipts organized by the year that I spent them, and then by month on the inside. So these are all my receipts. Sometimes I have to print them if it's online, sometimes they give it to me at the store. It's very important to keep them all. And like I said before, when it comes to taxes, I hire an accountant. It's easier, it's, for me, safer because I'm gonna mess up if I do it myself. But do your own research, learn about filling out taxes, and also know your local laws. So now that we've got the bookkeeping set up, it's time to plan out startup costs. It's well known that businesses need money to start and to run. And that is true, even though you can save quite a bit of money by using free versions, by finding free resources. You definitely will need to spend money. If you're shipping things, you're renting a PO box, you have a website builder subscription, you want to start YouTube and you need the camera, there's going to be some cost of supplies here. The most amount of money I think I invested in art business was definitely on my YouTube setup. my camera, the SSD card, the batteries, the memory card, external memory drive. It was a lot of money, and not everyone will have the funds to start YouTube right away. So that might be something that isn't in your startup costs. Maybe it's not something you can afford. This is why you're planning it now, to see what you're able to start with. If all you can do is start with your phone and like Instagram Reels, then that's great. Then you start with that. You don't need to spend a ton of money. Don't spend what you don't have. Don't make risky purchases. This is why we're planning it here. In the mind map itself, I did make sections for expenses and income, just to keep track of the streams and, what I generally think about the different streams. I also put a startup costs section here on the expenses. So I color coordinated them just like the rest of the mind map. Art supplies are blue, content creation is yellow, and business is gray. I wrote down the actual startup cost for my YouTube supplies because that's the only one I had on hand. I had all the receipts for that, so I could write down my accurate spending. And the main reason why it was so expensive is because I saved up for a new camera. If I didn't have the funds for a new camera, I would definitely go with a used one from a lower model. Actually, the first YouTube video I made that did well on my channel, I was using my brother's camera that he got 10 years ago. I was just borrowing it off of him. So it doesn't need to be too fancy. It can be outdated equipment. It just needs to be in your budget and it needs to function. So keep in mind that you don't need everything right off the bat, just plan out what you need to start. So this can be shipping supplies, art supplies, maybe a few things if you want to start YouTube. It's important to note here that your budget will be very dependent on you and your situation, and having a large budget is very much a privilege. Being in a safe place financially is also a privilege. Sometimes it isn't the right time to invest a lot of money. You may not have the extra funds, you may not have the savings for it, and that is okay. Start small, start free, and go from there. So before we get into the final step, which is step 7, let's do a little recap on what we just went through. We decided what art we wanted to sell, we researched the local laws around starting a business, we chose where we wanted to host our shop, and we learned the skills of marketing, content creation, and bookkeeping. And finally, we planned our business startup costs. If this sounds like a lot, it's because it is. Our business is a lot, especially at the beginning. It kind of just always is, honestly. The final step is to actually get started by launching your shop and creating content. So you want to make videos for your audience that markets your community and your online shop, and then you want to have a place for them to go, which is your online shop, your Patreon, whatever else you have. And you should have these places easy to find and easy to access. So the benefit of having this step last instead of first is that you have a plan. You have already created the foundation and the structure of your art business and your online shop. I think having a sense of direction and having everything ready prior to starting is a better way to go rather than just jumping straight into content creation and kind of spending all your time making videos and trying to see what works, and maybe nothing does because you didn't really learn about marketing first. After getting all of these parts moving, the ultimate goal is to get buyers to your shop. So your content creation will market you and also your art and hopefully achieve the AIDA model. It'll get the attention, interest, desire, and finally action of your viewers. You'll hopefully build a community, and finally you'll keep track of all of your business expenses and your income through bookkeeping. And this is basically my job. This is what I do. The content that I make varies. Sometimes it's a long YouTube video, sometimes it's a short Instagram video, sometimes it has my art in it, sometimes it's just me talking about art, and the success of my content varies. That's just how social media works. Not everything is going to blow up, not everything's going to be your best work, but that's just how it goes. The last part of my mind map is this part that says other options, and this is basically my backup plan. You may not need a backup plan if you already have a job and you're just kind of dipping your toes in art business, you're just checking it out. That is your backup plan, I guess, is to just go back to full-time hours or to go back to that job. But for me, I went straight into art business after graduating, so I have a few options here that I could turn to if I need to supplement my income or if this just isn't working for me. So my backup plans use my qualifications, which is my degree in fine arts. I could work in galleries, I could apply for grants, I could teach art classes in galleries. There's a lot of different things I could do. I also wrote go to markets as my backup plan because I really wanted to only have an online shop because that just works the best for me and my life circumstances with shipping orders from my home. I didn't really want to do like a full day of art markets. I have chronic illness. I don't want to stand that long and be in a crowded space for that long, but if I needed to, it is a good option for me. It is an easier way for me to sell art without having to rely on marketing, and it's something that I've actually been considering a lot lately. So this is why it's good to have a backup plan, because I saw a dip in my income and I'm thinking, well, maybe I should try a market maybe this winter when people buy the most items for Christmas. And my final backup plan was to get my master's degree, which sounds kind of silly as a backup, but when it comes to fine arts, it doesn't exactly open a lot of opportunities for you. I would still have to very much make my way through the art scene. I'd have to work closely with my local fine art scene, and that's just not something I really want to do, but that is an option, and it's always good to have options. And not every backup plan needs to be quit. It doesn't need to be give up and not touch art business ever again. It can be get a part-time job as a barista. It can be go back to work and do this on the side again until you can figure it out, or it can be to get a job related to art business in a way. Maybe it's related to art, related to content creation, getting a job in the field. It's whatever you want it to be. It doesn't always have to be quit. But if it needs to be quit, sometimes it does. If you need to change your path, change your direction, sometimes that's just what you need to do, and there's no shame in that. Changing directions is not the same as failing. And you're not less of an artist if you're not a full-time artist. You're not less of an artist if you don't sell your work. So always have something to fall back on. Dealing with setbacks is an essential skill to have in business. You need to adapt. You need to get ready to deal with issues and changes. You need to have a plan, but that plan needs to be able to change and adapt. So I'll link some other videos about art business and marketing here. I have a Discord full of other artists who want to talk about art business more realistically, to not romanticize it while also still pursuing it. I also have my shop and Patreon linked below if you want to support me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.